Hello, and welcome to what is take 2 of part 2 of the French Allied Naval Commanders. Because for some reason, the earlier version, despite having sound, when I checked it on my computer, doesn't have sound when I upload it to YouTube. So, I am hopeful that this will keep sound. But I am conscious that I am not joined by a fluffy research assistant. And at the moment. So, I am going to add just a little something to this to give you all a few seconds of fun while I am talking to you. Yes, that's Zebedee. Bottling around, and that's from earlier today. So, whilst you can deal with the joy of duplication of me, dealing with a little fluffy puppy on the screen, I can talk about the French and the Allied naval commanders. For starters, the reason it's Allied is because the best admiral on the side of Napoleon was Spanish, not French. His Dutch one was also fairly good, and he had some fairly competent officers, but admiral-wise, he has issues. And those admirals have multiple issues because of three things. One, their crews don't get enough time at sea. They really don't. It's not surprising. They're usually being blockaded by the Royal Navy. And that doesn't exactly help them. Being blockaded by the Royal Navy is not great for your training, and it's not great for any of the effort you're putting into it. You can't do much. You can't practice your sailing. You also can't practice your commanding. You can't practice your leadership. So not only are your skills as an admiral rusty, your crew's skills are rusty. You are a surgeon who is being asked to perform complex surgery with a rusty pocket knife, not a scalpel. There is also the advantage that the Royal Navy officers have is that their experience at sea. The very nature of the Royal Navy, with the way admirals provide patronage and it's been consistently going, means that their officers are able to build upon the greatness of others. They can pass on institutional memory so much more easier than the French can do so. This means that an average Royal Navy admiral is usually better than an average French admiral. In turn, they've got more experience, they're a harder sailor, and also the sea is its own selection process. Okay, in the Royal Navy, you have to pass an exam to become a lieutenant, so there's still patronage and able to get pompous people and powerful people are able to get their friends and family promoted, but they have to pass that exam. But the thing is, the sea will still kill you if you're an idiot. It will do. And therefore, if you spend more time at sea, and if your fleet is overall spending a lot more time at sea, it has a pruning effect. Hopefully you don't lose ships. Okay, usually it's the case of the admiral is watching you going, who is the... Okay, he's not getting command of a ship again. Not in my navy. Not in my squadron. I don't care who his older brother is. And that is the reality of the Napoleonic Wars. That's the reality of all these wars. That these French commanders are rusty in their skills, and their sailors are rusty as well. Right, as you can see, that was an earlier scene. Zebedee was here earlier when I was filming this part of this video. And this part of the video is the traditional, by now, hello. So, I set up a Spreadshirt store because people wanted merchandise. And the thing is, the whole point is this funding I get from YouTube, the support through the super chats, the memberships, the Patreon, all that stuff, and the spreadsheet short allow me to be an independent naval historian and a truly independent naval historian, because there is no funding body that is able to start prescribing how I publish, where I publish, what I publish. There is no strings attached to a grant. And yes, I would still compete for those grants. And frankly, they are very, very useful. And I'm not saying anything against them. But every single thing comes with a string. It always does. So no one gives you money for free in life. I have found this to be a far better methodology for me. Yes. The requirement for this, the string for this, is that I provide regular amounts of naval history on YouTube. That is not an onerous string for me. That is something which is what I'd probably be doing anyway. So this is a great thing. Anyway, putting this out there, my aunt decided to, when she saw this, that if I doubled my viewership by December 31st, 2021, she would, and my uncle would wear Blackburn face masks, which, if you don't know what it is, it's a very ugly looking aircraft. Avoid. But thing is, I'm a long way from there. So I need your help if I've got any chance to get there. And I'm currently about 6,800, so I'm a long, long way from there. If you can like the videos, please like, please share, please comment. Please get other people to watch them. Anyway, on with the French Navy. And this is Pierre-Charles Villeneuve. And this, of course, is the various images of Boissantier, his flagship, which was an 86-gun second rate. And she was name ship of a class. And this is her when she's in full regalia. This is what she looks like, apparently, at Trafalgar. Remember, these are both artist renditions, so take them both with a pinch of salt. And let's look at his war experience. He had fought in the Anglo-French War of 1778 to 1783 in the Battle of Fort Royal. And the French Revolutionary Wars, he'd fought at the Battle of Nanille, where he'd run away because he'd seen how it was going and thought, that's not good. And then the Siege of Malta. Again, not a good scenario for him. And then the War of the Coalition, well, he only loses 2 ships at the Battle of Cape Finisterre, and then, of course, the Battle of Trafalgar happens. And this is the Admiral who Napoleon keeps selecting because he's lucky. This is the point. Villeneuve is selected because he is supposedly lucky. I suppose compared to some of the French admirals at the time, he is. But honestly, I wouldn't like to be on a ship commanded by him, or fleet commanded by him. I'd be worried constantly. What's my admiral going to be doing next? Is he going to go away? Is he going to leave me? Supposed to be in charge of this whole thing. But the trouble is, as I've said repeatedly, Villeneuve is given a very difficult task. And actually, though, he does pull off something thanks to luck. So maybe Napoleon was onto something. Because Nelson sets a trap. He pulls away from Toulon and makes sure he's seen in one area, and then quickly sails into the other route out of Toulon. And then he's hoping Villeneuve will come out and head straight towards him, which Villeneuve is doing quite merrily, until a merchant ship comes up and goes, "You do realise the Royal Navy's down there?" At which point he goes, "Ah!" and down the other way to escape. So that's how he gets past Nelson, because Nelson tries to be clever. We can all imagine what it would have been like with Nelson with 15-ish ships of the line versus Villeneuve's 11 in a battle in the Mediterranean. The whole Battle of Trafalgar, Manifest Destiny sort of thing might have been slightly different, because we consider the Brest fleet doesn't get out at all. If Villeneuve gets before he even gets out the Mediterranean. I.e., if he gets taken out before he's barely even got out of Toulon, then it's just going to go like all the previous operations have. There's going to be no worries, no fuss. Yes, yes, they'd rather not have large armies sitting across the coast in France, and yes, something random might happen from it. But there's nothing too much to worry about. Nothing really there that they have to be too scared of. And the French do have a love for the second rates. They really do. Next one. Honoré Joseph Antoine Guttemont, who is Vice Admiral in charge of the fleet in Brest, which at one point finds themselves hermetically sealed into Brest Harbour. Basically, the weather is terrible, and they can't go out for a while, and then they do. Then they can't go out, and then they go when they go out, they bump into Cornwallis and go, "We don't want to be here," and go back to Brest. And then they're sealed in, and then they are thinking about coming out again after, well, basically after Finisterre. But then they hear that Villeneuve's back in Cadiz, and they don't bother. Guttemont is an interesting admiral. He has quite a lot of experience, you can see, in the American Revolutionary War and the French Revolutionary War. He should be a reliable admiral for Napoleon. He should be someone who Napoleon can use. And yet he doesn't do anything. This is a painting of him in Indivisible, and with another ship capturing HMS Swifter. He has so much experience, and yet Napoleonic Wars, look at that battle list, because he spends most of his time sealed up in Brest. I'm resisting the obvious jokes you can make. Although, please note that word does wind up YouTube something chronic. Basically, they would like France to rename one of their major ports because they keep thinking I'm talking about something else. Right. Here's an interesting one. Pierre Dumont Le Pellet. Now, this gentleman is even less appreciated than the other two. The other two at least get some respect from Napoleon. They get some love from Napoleon. However, Dumont is originally in charge in Toulon. And this is what is Napoleon writes in August 1804. Monsieur de Cris, Minister of the Navy. It seems to me that there is not a moment to lose to send an admiral to command the Toulon squadron. It can't be any worse than it is today in the hands of Dumont, who is neither capable of maintaining discipline in such a large squadron, nor of making it act. It seems to me that to command this squadron there are only three men, Bru, Villeneuve, or Rosselli. To be fair, it means that Dumont doesn't have that role, but Dumont has another joy. As you can see, here's a battle for him after Trafalgar. It's the Battle of Cape Horseeagle. And in that battle, he gets himself entirely wiped out. Yes, he managed to get some ships away from Trafalgar. For good or for ill. And, yeah. he ends up getting his ship captured. The Formidable becomes HMS Brave. Probably because I think the Royal Navy already had a Formidable at the time. In fact, at one point, there's more Tonnant-class 80-gun third-rate vessels serving in the Royal Navy than there are in the French Navy. But let's look at his experience. He fought in the French Revolutionary Wars. No battles on our list, so he hasn't fought in any major battles. He hasn't really had many ship-on-ship actions. He hasn't really had much experience at all. And many people suggest that his progress and advancement is down to his cousin rather than his own ability. However, his cousin isn't. He's powerful, but he's not that powerful. And above all, I think he had how do I put this? He benefited from the fact that he was still alive and stayed. He had more experience than some, and he was still alive and he stayed. And that explains the advancement. Federico Gravina. There is a few things I would like to say before I get into this point about this gentleman. Oh, good lord, sorry. It won't come up. I was hoping to have a picture of the Gibraltar Chronicle at this point, but it won't work on the XSplit, the picture they sent me. Anyway, when he dies in 1806 from wounds sustained during the Battle of Trafalgar, the Gibraltar Chronicle, which, considering how many times they're laid siege to by Spain, are not exactly in the habit of being that nice about Spanish generals and admirals. It's not exactly a source you would look to for an unbiased account of a senior officer. It's usually fairly, we don't like them. They write this: Spain losing Gravina, the most distinguished officer in her navy, one under whose command her fleets, though sometimes beaten, always fought in such a manner as to meet the economies of their conquerors. As to merit the economies of their conquerors. Sorry. That coming from someone who doesn't like them, that tells you how good he was. If he'd been in the Royal Navy, trained by the likes of Rodney, of Earl St. Vincent, and Duncan, who knows what he could have achieved? Cornwallis, all these officers going around, who knows what he could have achieved? As it was, what he achieved was very good. There's also a lovely a myth, perhaps. I'm not sure its veracity, but the lovely myth is that on his deathbed, he says, "I am a dying man, but I die happy. I am going, I hope and trust, to join Nelson, the greatest hero that the world has perhaps has produced." That doesn't feel right to me for a Spanish admiral to say, but maybe. But I am skeptical. Anyway, his flagship is the Príncipe de Asturias, a 112-gun Santa Ana class first-rate ship of the line. So please note the lower picture is the Santa Ana. The upper picture is the Príncipe de Asturias at the Battle of Trafalgar. Wars and battles. He took part in the American War of Independence, fighting at the Siege of Gibraltar, the capture of HMS St. Fermin, and the invasion of Minorca. Here, during the French Revolutionary Wars, he was part of the Siege of Toulon, and of course the Battle of Trafalgar in the Napoleonic Wars. He is a proficient, capable admiral. And Napoleon's quote: Gravina is all genius and decision in combat. If Villeneuve had those qualities, the Battle of Finistère would have been a complete victory. Okay. Villeneuve lost 2 ships at Finistère. Yes, the British don't regard it as the complete victory they want, especially in light of what happens at Trafalgar. But it's not exactly bad. But it's not exactly a win for the French. But they only lose 2 ships. But I do have to agree with him that I think versus Calder, Gravina versus Calder would have been an even match. Gravina versus Nelson, Collingwood, any of those officers, Cornwallis probably, would not have been a decent match. Would not have been a fair match. Possibly against Alexander Cochrane, but not against Pelly. Of the Cochranes, Alexander Inglis Cochrane is my the one who I have the most issue with occasionally as his admiral qualities. And then we have Karel Hendrik van Huel, who's a Vice Admiral Dutch, of the Dutch, well, Dutch Vice Admiral, but he's technically in charge of the Batavia Navy. And he's the person actually in charge of the invasion forces of England. If you consider he's in charge of the barges and the things that pulls together. So it's poor him who would have had to make 6 hours some form of reality. And you just know Napoleon would have wanted to be on the first flight of barges across. I managed on one occasion to fend off the advance of Sir William Sidney Smith. Now, seeing as Nelson and Napoleon was impressed by this, Nelson was impressed by this, I think, when he heard the news. Fending off Smith is... that takes skill. That takes skill, that takes luck, and it takes judgment. In fact, anything short of total annihilation versus Smith when you're in a frigate fight takes a lot of luck. So you just have to respect that. I'm not sure how good he actually is. But you have to respect it. And now we have Francois Etienne de Rosely-Mézeurs, who is... well, let's put this in the words of Napoleon. Monsieur Rosely has written to me to demand that he become a grand officer of the Legion d'Honneur. This makes difficulties for me. I have Mississy, Gourdon, Lacrosse, and Magon in mind to promote to that rank before him. He is thus very wrong to compare himself to Bruce, to Guatemala, to you, to Villeneuve. I even esteem that any captain who has done any active service and who is worthy of it is worthy of more consideration than Monsieur Rosely. Even so, he is a good officer. He is not so old as to be unable of further active service at sea. If you can employ him, or if he can stay as he is, I will not hear him speak any further of any kind of advancement. Men who remain in Paris cannot compare themselves to men who expose themselves to all the dangers one runs at sea, and as soon as they rise to comparing themselves to them, we must remind them and put them in their place. I'm sorry about the voice, but every time I read Napoleon, I just get a weird voice. I apologize now. It happens with my students in front of the class. I just hear this nasally French voice in my head whenever I'm reading them. I don't know why. I know he actually had a Corsican accent, so it wasn't definitely not nasally French. It was more It was more sort of a Delaware French, but I know that up here, but it doesn't stop it up here. Rosalie de Mazos is a French hydrographer. He is a very experienced officer. If you consider earlier, Napoleon was saying it's either him. He's one of this. This is one of the officers who could go down to take command of Toulon. Unfortunately, he proves not lucky. He's not sent down to Toulon. And then when he is sent to Cadiz, he's got the remnants of the fleet which is survived Trafalgar. And then issues flare up in Spain, including requiring an invasion of Spain by French troops and various other things to try and reorganize it. And he ends up having his ships in Cadiz, and as you can see from this harbour, there isn't a way out once you lose control of those forts. Once you don't have control of those forts, you ain't going anywhere. And so he couldn't. And so he ends up buttoned up on ships, and the ships with low supplies, with the Royal Navy very close. And he ends up having to surrender. And his ships all go to the various people who are fighting the French. Poor Rosalie. He's not necessarily a bad admiral. He's just not a good one. And again, it's another example. How do you get to vice admiral, even as an eminent hydrographer, and not have enough sea service that you're considered like this? The Royal Navy, in the case of you're experienced hydrographer, you're a captain. Oh, you've got some actual fighting experience. Rear admiral. Now won a battle. Oh, we'll talk about something else. But again, the French Navy is so short of officers, of experience, of abilities to get experience. Instead of laying ships up during the thanks to the Treaty of Amiens, they should have been sending them all to sea and getting them sailing practice. I'm not joking. They should have been. Anyway, part 3 will come out tomorrow, as will part 4. I will recorded part 4. I'm going to record part 3 after the second tape of recording this one. Part 4 and 5 I have written up, and I was planning on recording tonight, but dealing with the sound issues has taken up a lot of time, so I apologize. They're all going to be recorded tomorrow. Hopefully, he says, but it might be they might be delayed, but they will be out before they will be out in plenty of time before the live. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you.